The wind was biting cold that morning as Michael Carter walked his 8-year-old son, Ethan, to school. The leaves swirled on the pavement, whispering stories of forgotten battles and memories he'd rather not revisit. His worn military jacket flapped against his side, a silent reminder of who he used to be, Sergeant Michael Carter, U.S. Army veteran. Now, he was just Mr. Carter, the quiet janitor at Jefferson Elementary, holding his son's hand like a lifeline to the world that still mattered. He had once believed in happy endings, before his world shattered 5 years ago. His marriage had crumbled under the weight of deployment, trauma, and silence. His wife, Sarah, couldn't take it anymore. The long nights, the distance, the anger that wasn't aimed at her but hurt her all the same. One day she'd left, saying she needed peace and meaning. Michael hadn't fought her. He'd just watched her walk away with tears burning in his eyes, holding a 3-year-old Ethan in his arms. He hadn't heard from her since. That morning, while he stood by the school gate waving at Ethan, something unusual caught his attention. A convoy of black SUVs rolling through the street, escorted by military police. His old instincts kicked in, his spine straightening. The cars stopped by the school entrance, and a tall woman in a sharp gray uniform stepped out. The insignia on her shoulder made Michael's stomach twist. Deputy Defense Commander. He squinted, not believing what he saw. Her face. Familiar. Too familiar. Sarah. She turned, her auburn hair tied back, her eyes sharper than he remembered but still carrying the same light that once stole his breath away. Behind her, 5 children stepped out of the car, different ages, all polite and disciplined. She gave quick instructions to her aides before heading toward the school. For a moment, her eyes met his. The world froze. Michael's breath caught. The years vanished in an instant. Sarah, he whispered, disbelief trembling in his voice. Her eyes widened slightly, but she quickly composed herself, professionalism masking emotion. Michael, it's been a long time. Inside, the air between them felt heavier than armor. Ethan had run off to class, leaving his father standing face to face with the woman he had loved and lost. "You're Deputy Commander?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she replied, looking down for a moment before meeting his gaze again. 5 years of service. I rebuild my life after." She trailed off, not finishing the sentence. "After me," he said bitterly, the words cutting his throat. Sarah's eyes softened. "You don't know what those years were like for me either, Michael. You came back from war, but you never really came home." He wanted to argue, to remind her of the nights he woke up screaming, the mornings he couldn't face the sun. But what would it change now? She stood there in her uniform, strong and confident, while he stood in a janitor's jacket, the man who'd lost everything. Still, behind her composure, he noticed something else, a hint of sorrow in her voice when she introduced the kids. "These are my children," she said. "They're not all mine by birth. I adopted 3 of them from a refugee program I helped oversee." His heart softened a little. She had found purpose in saving lives while he had barely managed to save his own. Days turned into weeks, and their paths kept crossing. Sarah's new security initiative involved the school, so she often visited to check safety protocols. Each time, Michael would find himself standing in the hallway, pretending to mop floors while stealing glances at her, the woman who used to be his whole world. But what struck him most wasn't her medals or authority, it was how she spoke to the kids. Firm but gentle, the same way she once spoke to Ethan. The same love, the same heart. One afternoon, disaster struck. A small electrical fire broke out in the gymnasium during an event. Chaos erupted. Smoke, screams, panic. Michael didn't think. Instinct took over. He rushed into the flames, breaking open doors, ushering kids to safety. The fire alarms blared as smoke filled his lungs, but he pushed through. When he reached the back room, he found Sarah shielding 2 children under her coat, coughing heavily. "Sarah," he shouted. Her head snapped up. "Michael." Without hesitation, he grabbed one child, she held the other, and together they ran through the thick smoke toward the exit. He kicked open the door, dragging them into daylight just before part of the ceiling collapsed behind them. The next thing he knew, he was lying on a stretcher, oxygen mask on, Sarah holding his hand tightly. Her eyes were full of tears. "Why do you always have to be the hero?" she whispered. He tried to smile beneath the mask. Old habits die hard. Later that evening, in the quiet of the hospital, Sarah sat by his bedside. For the first time in years, there was no rank, no medals, no pride, just two broken hearts finding their way back to the same rhythm. "I never stopped caring, Michael," she said softly. "I just didn't know how to fix what was broken." He turned his head toward her. "Neither did I. But maybe, we don't have to fix the past. Maybe we can start from here." Her eyes welled up. "You think that's possible?" He smiled weakly. "You're the deputy defense commander. I'm sure you can manage one stubborn veteran." She laughed through her tears, the sound he had missed for so long. Weeks later, as he recovered, Sarah started visiting often, bringing Ethan and the other kids. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. The children adored Michael, and he, in turn, treated them like his own. They spent afternoons at the park, dinners filled with laughter, and nights talking about forgiveness, loss, and second chances. Michael realized something profound. People change, but love doesn't vanish, it evolves. It waits for the right moment to bloom again, stronger than before. In the end, Michael stood in his backyard, watching Ethan play with the other kids while Sarah stood beside him, her hand slipping into his. "Never thought I'd see this day," he said quietly. "Me neither," she smiled. "Turns out, the strongest battles aren't fought on the front lines, they're fought in the heart." Michael looked at her, his eyes full of peace for the first time in years. "Then I'm glad we both finally won." And as the sun dipped behind them, two warriors, scarred, tested, but unbroken, found the one victory that mattered most. A family rebuilt, not by chance, but by forgiveness.